This video is brought to you by Keeps. Stick around to hear more about their special offer for the entire upper echelon community. Alright, the Twitter files? Yeah, this is no longer a nothing burger. The first installment showcased a series of emails that seemed to indicate some kind of back-channel moderation at Twitter. I have a video about that up on the channel already, I'll link it down below in the description. But the second and third installments? Yeah, now there's dirt, evidence, questions, and in my opinion, it went from, that's intriguing, I'll keep an eye on it, to, oh my god, now there's proof. Quick summary before getting into what's new, because the legacy media is largely ignoring all of this and acting like it doesn't exist, save a few outlets and commentators. Twitter openly invented a reason to censor a story by the New York Post about a laptop belonging to Hunter Biden during the 2020 election cycle. This decision was not rooted in policy or legal precedent. It was purely the result of ideologically driven employees. However, the first data dump in which emails and policy decisions were exposed had a few issues. For starters, it was fairly obvious that the internal structure of Twitter had severe problems to begin with, allowing for content moderation to be dictated by the politics of just whoever happened to be holding the reins at that specific moment in time. According to the very same journalist leaking the initial emails, both political parties enjoyed access to special moderation channels, even if one party enjoyed far greater access as a result of company culture. What I mean by this is that according to every single available public metric, Twitter, both as a corporate entity and a function of individual behavior inside that corporate entity, gave overwhelmingly to support Democratic political candidates. 99% of employee donations, as well as the lion's share of all corporate donations, slanted blue, especially during the 2020 election cycle in particular, which reasonably indicates that there are more people inside the company with an inclination, either conscious or subconscious, to support left-leaning policy actions or requests. Once again referencing a statement made by Jack Dorsey, prior CEO of Twitter, conservatives at the company were afraid to voice their opinions or speak about their views because the culture was overwhelmingly dominated by left-leaning viewpoints. That's a problem by itself. However, the Twitter files have now given us an entirely new look inside the guts of a prominent social media company, and what we see is pretty insane. The second data dump, in my opinion, is the most interesting, but since the initial reveal there have been two more threads, one published by a journalist named Barry Weiss and the other by a journalist named Matt Taibbi, which give us a shockingly clear vision of just how bad things had gotten inside Twitter HQ. Thread number 2 is my personal focus for today, more so than the other, though I will of course cover or address thread number 3 because of this quote and this video by Jack Dorsey in front of a congressional committee on shadow banning.
Social media is being rigged to censor conservatives. Is that true of Twitter?
No.
I don't know what Twitter is up to. It sure looks like to me that they're censoring people, and they ought to stop it. Are you censoring people?
No.
Twitter shadow banning prominent Republicans. It's bad. Is that true?
No.
So these were statements made by Kevin McCarthy, the House Majority Leader, on Twitter, Devin Nunes on Fox News, and President Trump on Twitter. And I want to place those statements into the record, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection.
I think it's important for people to understand, the premise of this whole hearing and the reason that Twitter somehow, with all the other social media platforms out there, got the singular honor to sit in front of this committee is because there's some implication that your site is trying to censor conservative voices on your platform. Now, when you tried to explain the shadow banning, as I understand it, you had a system where if people who were following people had some behaviors, that was the trigger that caused you to do the shadow banning. So you were really like an equal opportunity shadow banner, right? You didn't just shadow ban 4 conservative Republicans. You shadow banned 600,000 people across your entire platform across the globe who had people following them that had certain behaviors that caused you to downgrade them coming up. Is that correct?
Correct.
So this was never targeted at conservative Republicans. This was targeted to a group of 600,000 people because of the people who followed them. And then you determined that wasn't fair, and you corrected that practice.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
So just for the record, since you've been singled out as a social media platform before this committee, Twitter undertook no behavior to selectively censor conservative Republicans or conservative voices on your platform. Is that correct?
Correct.
Good. So let the record reflect that, because that's the whole reason, supposedly, we're here.
Those are definitive statements. Jack Dorsey maintains that they never censored conservative candidates or political figures because of their beliefs, only because of the behavior that their followers engage in. But the second iteration of the Twitter files, combined with the third, illustrates something else entirely. Alright, before going further, this particular sponsor is relevant for men ages 18 to 45. If that's you, and if you suffer from hair loss, try out Keeps. Keeps has been a supporter of the channel for a very, very long time, offering a massive 50% order discount to Upper Echelon community members. Keeps has more 5-star reviews than any current competitor. You can order and get treated directly from your own home for a fraction of the cost when compared to other products, and they offer generic versions of the only 2 FDA-approved hair loss treatments on the entire market. 2 out of 3 men, by age 35, will actually experience hair loss, making this basically an ideal partnership. If you click the link down below, you can get 50% off your first order. Again, that is a 50% discount on your first order if you click the link down below in the description. Keeps can help prevent, in some cases, actually reverse the process of hair loss. And yes, I do absolutely get paid for this. I am sponsored. But that sponsorship is one of the longest running partnerships for Upper Echelon, allowing me to continue what I do. Again, link down below in the description. Big thank you to Keeps for sponsoring the channel. All right, here we go. According to documents made public by Barry Weiss, Twitter engaged in targeted and very specific blacklisting endeavors, including trend blocking, search blocking, barriers to entry, amplification throttling, and more. Now, this is where it gets tricky, because in 2018, as reported by Vice News at the time, surprisingly, Twitter displayed open search blacklisting for specific Republican political candidates. Documented and proven, Republican lawmakers like Matt Gaetz, Tom Perez, or Ronna McDaniel simply didn't show up in Twitter search results, even when typing their exact full name in the bar. In response, Twitter's head legal representative Vijaya Gadde, in a blog post attempting to clarify what was happening, titled "Setting the Record Straight on Shadow Banning," said, quote, "People are asking us if we shadow ban. We do not. But let's start with what is shadow banning. The best definition we found is this: deliberately making someone's content undiscoverable to everyone except the person who posted it, unbeknownst to the original poster. We do not shadow ban. You are always able to see the tweets from accounts you follow, although you may have to do more work to find them, like go directly to their profile, and we certainly don't shadow ban based on political viewpoints or ideology." End quote. That right there, that's an extremely skilled deflection. Say what you want about her as an individual, she is highly intelligent, and it's meant to relegate the term shadow banning to a singular definition where the user's content is invisible to anyone but themselves. That's an acceptable definition to use if you want to, of course, but it certainly isn't the only definition. Delisting someone from the search function, removing their ability to be placed on the trending page, or otherwise throttling specific aspects of their content on the platform, for specific reasons, is also a type of shadow banning. And in order to continue getting away with such behavior, Twitter executives appeared to play a bit of a word game, pretending that unless a user was invisible to everyone but themselves, which basically no one was, it wasn't a shadow ban. In reality, Twitter extensively engaged in the practice of shadow banning. They merely did so under the guise of a specific de-amplification action. Those actions equate to a shadow ban in every legitimate sense of the phrase, but when reclassifying the definition to be something overly specific and far-reaching, Twitter was able to defend itself by saying, no, we do not shadow ban, because their version of that practice was something they legitimately, truthfully, were not doing. Hopefully that makes sense. Here's the thing. Twitter's head of trust and safety, Yoel Roth, can now be seen in direct engagements stating that they got Jack on board, former CEO Jack Dorsey, with implementing more suppression techniques short-term, but that they would need to make a more robust case to get this into their repertoire of policy remediations for the long term. What does that mean? It means that the internal dynamics of Twitter were such that executives were pursuing individual actions to bolster their own ability to censor, shadow ban, and throttle on the platform, aiming to use this at their sole discretion, even when those decisions circumvented existing company policy or caused widespread backlash, aka the laptop story, which was censored because of Twitter's hacked materials policy, seemingly without the knowledge of CEO Jack Dorsey, when that policy did not actually apply to the matter in question. Now, to be clear, the internet is filling up with everyone's opinion on these revelations by the minute, so here's my personal, opinionated viewpoint. Everyone already knew what was happening here, to some degree. We just didn't have concrete proof. Twitter executives could lie to Congress or make up whatever they wanted in blog posts, and we had no way to refute their claims. But now we do. This kind of behavior is what publishers do, not platforms. Twitter, as a social media platform, enjoys the protection of something called Section 230, which shields them from liability based on what users post. However, if Twitter is selectively determining who to censor or shadow ban, they are then picking and choosing what is published on their platform, or rather what gains traction on their platform, making them a publisher, not an impartial platform. These revelations make it clear, in my humble opinion, that Twitter did not deserve protection as a result of Section 230 under its previous leadership, because decisions were being made on a near constant basis to control what was posted, shared, seen, or searched for. Loss of that protection would have fundamentally crippled the platform, probably destroyed it, actually, and now, of course, the dynamic has changed dramatically, but if Twitter was engaging in publisher behavior, what other social media companies are doing the exact same thing right now? Truthfully, probably most of them, but we don't have the concrete documentation for others, we only have it for Twitter, meaning that the issue will likely die off fast in the public eye, but for me, that is the most intriguing thing about all of this, and that should be something we definitely focus on. That's just the second installment, which I do find to be the most hard-hitting as of right now, but the third one, that also has important information. Turns out that Twitter was in regular meetings with the FBI, DHS, DNI, probably most other government agencies as well, as they curbed the spread of misinformation. A lot of this is actually worthless, like how Twitter executive Yoel Roth canceled his FBI and DHS weekly meetings one time because he had to take a call with Apple and stop Twitter from being kicked off the App Store, which really is a nothing burger and shouldn't even have been in the Twitter files, in my opinion, to be honest. But other parts are much more interesting. According to Yoel Roth, once again, he and Vijaya Gadde appear to be the nexus of corruption here, of sorts. Twitter had, quote, blocked the New York Post story, then unblocked it, but said the opposite, then said they unblocked it, and thus ended up in a messy situation where their policies were in shambles, comms was angry, reporters thought they were idiots, and they were refactoring an exceedingly complex policy 18 days out from the election, end quote. Basically, these files in conjunction with one another show that Twitter was being run by a team of executives who would repurpose or reframe policies at will, unilaterally, just to censor or ban things that they deemed to be problematic, then justifying the actions later by reworking policies, playing semantic games, or flat out lying. The Twitter files now showcase the messy reality of a massive social media company's internal politics. We all knew it would be messy if we ever got to see inside. We all knew that suspect dealings and personal agendas were absolutely an issue, as they are and would be in almost any major corporate entity. But this is worse than most people likely thought, and certainly bad enough to warrant front page coverage on most legacy media outlets. And yet, realistically, there's almost nothing. It's not a massive smoking gun, it's not impeachment material or something like that, and it doesn't tear down the establishment narrative or government completely, but there are real problems being exposed here, and real actions are necessary to fix things. Think about it this way. What happened to Twitter was perhaps a standard social media internal politics situation, which is likely happening elsewhere in the industry right now as well, just different flavors. But rather than one side defending the actions or refusing to acknowledge them because it would damage the side that they support, we need unity in the condemnation of these actions on principle. Imagine if Elon Musk, rather than releasing this information, even if that release is possibly slanted, simply extended the policies into a new corporate governance structure where his chosen executives executed the exact same tactics, merely just aimed at different people. If that happened, the outrage would be historic, and rightly so. Why then should we not condemn the idea of a social media giant ignoring the rules that they should be accountable under because those infractions just happen to damage the people that we dislike right now? Answer: we obviously shouldn't ignore it, but sadly, many people will and are. Bottom line, the second and third installments of the Twitter files are far more interesting than the first, but in conjunction, they give us perhaps a once-in-a-lifetime view of just how much of our digital lives have changed, or are being changed and controlled, by a couple of executives at a tech firm. Censoring politicians, suspending or throttling down Twitter accounts for the sitting president, not Trump's personal Twitter, mind you, I actually forgot this part, the POTUS Twitter account, or the White House Twitter account. These actions are enormous. They're talking about throttling those or suppressing them because it's ban evasion on Trump's part. I mean, it's crazy stuff. And, I mean, it allows a couple of highly partisan executives to affect American politics. I mean, to what degree you want to argue is subjective, right? You can say, oh, they affected American politics a lot or a little, but they did affect American politics by way of policy enforcement on a social media platform. In my eyes, the Twitter files are a once-in-a-lifetime window into the dark soul of a corporate, tech-centered nation now, where we all kind of know what's going on, but most of us deliberately pretend not to know for lack of evidence. Well, now we're getting some evidence, so what a time to be alive. If you want to support, please check out the links down below. Patreon and locals, of course, monthly subscription, merch, social media, etc., etc. My main Twitter account is banned. I don't know if I'll ever get that back. I hope I will, but we'll see. As well as the video sponsor Keeps, of course, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.